I've done a lot better with just the emotional aspects of things feeling scary and um some things can be disappointing, or knowing how to navigate if I didn't feel like I gave my best work, meaning, if I led a workshop or spoke at an engagement, I can certainly find the one thing that, I was disappointed in versus all the things that went really well, or all the feedback that I received that was really great. I've done I've evolved in the sense that, if I did receive that one negative comment, let's not have that one negative comment take me out.
And I am so honored because I have Jennifer back with us. It's been 2 years. I can't believe it's been 2 years.
No, it's still scary, exciting. And my coach always said, like, that's where you want to be. Is it scary, exciting? And can you have that excited feeling? Just make sure that's the feeling that kind of takes over, and don't let that scared feeling be the feeling that holds you back. It's still being able to take what we call aligned action towards my goals and my dreams. And I spoke to someone recently who said, you had a career before and now you've stepped into your calling, and I love that. So that is a motivator for me.
Thank you for having me. I was thrilled you reached back out and excited to kind of catch back up with you.
Yes, absolutely. I know we had such a great conversation last time. I was like, I have to have Jennifer back, and just everything that you have endured in your life. If you haven't seen the first episode, go back and watch it. But Jennifer has been through so much in her entire life, but really focusing on helping so many individuals really commit to their life, to empowering themselves, that inner warrior that you talk about as well. But I just want to know, what have you been up to for the last 2 years? Well, I want you to tell everybody what you've been up to.
Yeah, a lot. And I say that just because you don't know what you don't know when you become a solopreneur. I knew I was saying yes to becoming a coach, and so I focused a lot of my effort, energy into how to be the best coach I could be, and all the, what are the tools that I have access to support my clients, and the process, and all of that. But there's so much on the back end of being a solopreneur, entrepreneur, that I've had to kind of learn and adapt and shift over the last couple of years as I want to grow and scale this thing. So, it's been a lot of navigation over the last couple of years, and trying different things on, and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And so that's kind of the short of it right now. But it's been a lot of fun. I wouldn't, no regrets. And I certainly, there's continued affirmation as to why I do this work, and not to go back to what I did, several years ago, which was a career in sales. So I have no desire to go back to doing that. There's continued affirmation and trust in the process.
Absolutely. And I love that you said, like, you focused on just really being the best coach you could be, and how that can really evolve and transpire. There's so much on the back end that you don't know until you're actually in it, and having to figure things out. Like, my husband and I deal with that all the time. It's like, okay, we finally figured out this one issue, but then there's like 100 more to like deal with. There are things on the back end that you don't always really see in the forefront. But I think it's so important that we understand that you can get stretched really thin if you
Mhm.
allow yourself to, but being able to delegate or have that support, and just how you can move through coaching, but also the business side of it. And so, what has the last 2 years with all of that, like a lot of evolution? You've done a lot of things, you've done speaking, you've workshops, you've been kind of everywhere. But what has been the biggest lesson that you've learned in these last 2 years?
I'm certainly not supposed to do all of this on my own as a business owner, right? So it's figuring out what I want to delegate and who I want to delegate that to, and lean into other people's strengths. For example, a big decision that I made earlier this year was like rebranded and refreshed my entire website. Because as I created that in the fall of 2020 is when I first decided to become a coach, and then went through my certification and started coaching one-to-one. And over these last 2 years, myself and my business and my brand has evolved. And so that was a big upgrade and update. So worked with someone that is gifted in that realm, and she kind of helped me create my new site now. And I love it. I love the look of it. And she's just been a really great go-to person just from a strategy standpoint to kind of help me with messaging and marketing and things like that. So that's been extremely helpful.
Yes, no, I think that's so important. You brought up the fact of delegating and knowing we can't do it all, just like what we were talking about. But I'm curious because there's so many brand strategists and website designers and all the things out there. How did you come to decide on the individual that you picked to help you grow your business or be able to help with your website and everything?
Yeah, that's such a great question, because there is a plethora of people like that. And it was through somebody I knew and trusted, and versus just randomly going online and not really knowing who you're getting. And so by already knowing that she had worked with a friend and coach of mine, and she's local, which I like. So she's got an office that's 15-20 minutes away, that not every time do we meet in person, but it's nice if we want to and that we can to strategize face to face versus even just being online. So she's local, and I like that a lot.
That's so important. And and when you were saying that, all I was thinking was community and relationships and continuing to build upon those, because you don't know what you don't know, of course. But if you have a referral or that word of mouth, it really gives that sense of um, being able to really be focused on how people are, okay, I trust this person, that no trust like factor, even in sales and whatnot, like your background, but being able to build those relationships and know you can trust somebody to really help you with your business, with any aspect of it, because that's important. That's your brand, how you present yourself when people are like, oh, what's your website or what's your social media or whatever it is, how
Mhm.
people find us. And I think that is really important. And just, I love that you brought up the evolution of how you realize, okay, it's time to like upgrade my website, change things, make things a little bit more aligned with how I have evolved in 2 years. Because a lot of times people might keep something the same for years and never change it, but we're always changing and evolving. And what have you noticed in these last 2 years in particular of your evolution? Like what has changed for you,
Mm.
like internally?
Oh, that's such a good question. What has changed for me internally? I think what I continuously know and believe is that I is to continue to do my own work around just continued healing. I've done a lot better with just the emotional aspects of things feeling scary, and um some things can be disappointing, or knowing how to navigate if I didn't feel like I gave my best work, meaning, if I led a workshop or spoke at an engagement, I can certainly find the one thing that, I was disappointed in versus all the things that went really well, or all the feedback that I received that was really great. I've done I've evolved in the sense that, if I did receive that one negative comment, let's not have that one negative comment take me out. Where I think an older version of me, it totally could have, where it was like, okay, that's somebody's opinion and they're entitled to that. Thank you for that. But let me acknowledge and celebrate the 10 acknowledgments and compliments that I received, or that something landed for somebody and it resonated, and that was something that they needed to hear that day. So I would say that's what comes up for me right now as you ask that question.
Mm. I think that's a really valid and important aspect because as we evolve, and there's always going to be people that are not in our corner cheering us on, and realizing that we have to love ourselves and really reflect on the things and the work that we're doing because we might not get that validation, but really focusing on the negative can bring us down, or that one comment, because it's so much easier sometimes to remember the negative comment versus like the 20 something positive remarks that we got, whether it's a workshop or with a client or whatnot. But I think that's such an important aspect when it comes to how we really interpret information and how we move through the world. But at the end of the day, it's how we evolve, how we work on ourselves, because it's really easy to slip back into that, or like, oh, I didn't do a good job. Or, I mean, I'm a recovering perfectionist. So when I like hear a negative comment, I'm like, oh, it stings.
Mhm.
But then as time has gone on and the more work I've done on myself personally, I've noticed that shift too. And I think a lot of people, when you are just committing to the fact that they are like, I want to be better for me, it's like that 1% better. I'm sure you've heard that too, like every day.
Mhm.
You can't be 365% better every single day, but you can do 1% or even a 0.5% because it's moving the needle forward. And I think that's just a really vital aspect of it, because when we work on ourselves, we can continue to evolve and things don't bother us as much as maybe they did in the beginning. Because I'm sure even working with your clients, of just that inner warrior in themselves, of being able to realize, okay, I want to move forward. I don't want to feel stuck or anything that else comes up. And I'm curious because, last time you were on, we talked about clients that and all the success stories you had already had. But do you have any newer clients that you've seen this big transformation, or you've really seen them work through that inner warrior in themselves?
I have, and it's been really cool to witness because again, there's been a couple times. I mean, I can think of one client where I wasn't sure in our time together, did I really support her the way,
Mm.
to my fullest potential as a coach? Did she really get clarity in the answers that she was looking for? And as I reflect back on our time together, you know, she not only left a job, um, but that she found her purpose and created a business that tapped into, um, she lost both of her parents within a short amount of time and was working through that. And that was part of the reason why she and I worked together, and to help her support her through the grief of that. But then she turned her purpose, and it gives me chills right now, and her why to create these products that are dedicated to her parents. So that's a pretty profound affirmation as to why, is she, because she certainly couldn't navigate her grief by herself. No one's meant to do that. And so, everybody needs somebody. And I love that the clients that reach out to me, that's all I'm trying to help them understand is like, I'm here from an accountability standpoint to kind of help you with that 1% each and every day. And when you do get stuck on something, let's work through that together, because it's not going to go the way you think it's going to go every single day. So that's a pretty cool win, I would say, working with the client over the last few months.
Yeah, no, I think that's a huge win, because you're right. You don't know what's going to come or how you're going to handle certain situations because you've one maybe never dealt with it, or just that how your emotions can really take over in that process, but not getting stuck there. Like, I think it's so important
Right.
to process feelings, release them, not hold on to them, but also knowing you still have to move forward. And the energy to move
Mhm.
forward sometimes can be really challenging, no matter what the situation is, because grief can be very messy, and just even our emotions, how they can really intertwine in so many different elements of what's going on, no matter what it is. And I think it's so important to have that accountability, have that support, to not give up on ourselves and
Yeah.
just continuing to move forward, because it can be challenging sometimes. I felt that the other day, like hormones are going crazy. And you're like, okay, just breathe, just breathe. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's just today. It's going to look different tomorrow. And sometimes that can be hard, especially if you're a planner like me, where you want to know what's going to happen next. And you're like, you kind of have to let that go and just focus on having that support and people that are in your corner, really cheering you on, but also being direct and saying, okay, well, what
Mhm.
can we do to get out of the mud? It's like I just like look at like quicksand or something. You're like
Yeah.
struggling, but it's like, here's my hand, let me help you. And that's what
Yeah.
I envision you doing for your clients.
Yeah. I love that. That's a great I guess analogy of for what I wanted to feel like for them, because everybody's going to get or is going to feel like they've been in quicksand or are in it now. And it's like, it's okay to be in it, but don't stay in it, and know that you can't get out of it potentially alone, right? And you may have to ask for help outside of your friends and family, but it's knowing that somebody's out there for everybody to kind of help them through the mud.
Yes, I love that. You're right. And sometimes family and friends can't be that person in that moment. They can be there in other ways, but just having that structure or that safe haven. And,
Yeah.
I know you've continued to evolve in these 2 years, and I know you're working on a new project the last few months or so. Can you tell us a little bit about your sisterhood?
Yeah. So thank you for asking. So two friends of mine who are also coaches in different realms, it was through our personal, not only connection and friendship over the last year, and kind of supporting one another, kind of walking through some of the hard stuff,
Yeah.
that we kind of birthed um, this idea called a Sisterhood Project, and that we all knew we needed somebody, and so we created it locally here in Indianapolis first. We were very intentional with who we invited based on who we had talked to over the last year or two, and knew that um, they had maybe said something that stuck with us as far as wanting support, or didn't have a support, or didn't have good girlfriends, or you know close friends for whatever reason. And so we had an in-person kind of half-day event, kind of sharing our vision with them. And out of the about 30 women that came to that day, 13 of them said yes to a commitment through the rest of this year. So we launched that in April, and so we each take a month, and we do a couple coaching calls a month virtually. And then because it is local in Indy, we do a quarterly dinner out at a restaurant here in Indianapolis. We have a game night at somebody's house, which is a lot of fun. And just somebody owns I'm not able to go next week, but next week she owns like a massage facial type of place. And so she invited us down to be able to do something like that. And so it's supporting not only her local business, but just being together and in a form of self-care and whatever that looks like. So we see our vision with that growing next year in 2025, and doing more virtual options for women that we've met that are outside of Indianapolis, but can still feel connected in community. And we're excited about it. So it's called a Sisterhood Project. So
Oh, I love it. And I think it's so important. I'm seeing more people get so creative with what it looks like in their local area. Like even myself and two other women are doing something a little bit different, but I think that's the beautiful thing. There's room for all of us. There's an abundance, but finding your tribe, finding your people. And I love that you're not doing it alone, because what we were talking about earlier, having that support, because if one person's trying to do all these things, it can be so heavy, and being able to lean on each other, have that support. And then it's different perspectives too. You can see things
right.
from different angles, or like, oh, have you thought of this? Or even on the business side of things, because you've had your business, but then there's two other businesses that are evolving as well. So like bringing all those different dynamics. And I think it's just so powerful, because I believe women empowering each other and supporting each other versus a competition like years ago, how it used to be, especially I'm sure in sales as well. There's this level of like, okay, you're doing good, but I want to do better. But I think it's so powerful and just refreshing to hear that like more people are doing that, especially you, as well as the other women that you're working with too. And I'm
Yeah.
curious, because I know this is just the start, but what do you see future aspirations and goals for the Sisterhood Project, for you, your business? What do you see?
Such a great question. I like that the three of us, even though we do have separate coaching and facilitation type businesses, that we're making this a priority for all three of us. So we're all very aligned and wanting to see this thing grow, because we believe in it so much. And we've learned a lot in the last, it's been 6 months. So we've learned a lot in 6 months on how we want to navigate this moving forward. And so we definitely see this growing from a Sisterhood Project standpoint. Again, bringing women in, not just locally, but building potentially other chapters in other cities, or doing more in-person events. We're doing our first kind of weekend retreat with these women. So we see that aspect growing as well. From my standpoint, also moving forward, continuing to lean into the speaking aspect. I I've spoken a lot over the last 2 years at different events or different conferences and teams and groups of people. And every time I speak, when it comes to embracing your inner warrior, there's someone in the audience that comes up to me afterwards and says, I want you to speak that message to my people. And so that's been a really cool, affirming way to lean into one of my superpowers, which is my vulnerability and sharing what I know is true and what people, I believe, need to hear when it comes to healing. Because I think these last 2 years, these last 4.5 years, really, right, since the pandemic, but certainly over these last couple of years, that we all have unhealed parts of us, whether we're consciously aware of that or not. And those unhealed parts are potentially playing out and they're loud, whether we're consciously aware of that or not, right? Versus the other parts of us that are filled with love and kindness and compassion. It's like the unhealed parts are playing out. How can we help support, really everybody, as many people as we can that are open and willing and aware to say, yes, I'm aware that there's this part of me that is, sad or grieving or whatever that is. And I'm ready to lean into that to help heal. Because if I do that, that's, as you said, I believe earlier in this conversation, is like, that's a ripple effect that will continue to ripple out and affect everybody around you, personally and professionally. So speaking moving forward for me is a passion of mine for sure.
I love that. And I feel like just the Sisterhood Project, what you're creating with both powerhouse women that you are doing it with, is going to transpire and help so many people all over the country, essentially, maybe globally too, who knows. With
who
those
knows?
chapters, maybe I'm thinking ahead for you.
I love it. Put it out there. Yeah.
But the more the merrier. And I think the more we can impact people in different capacities, we all have different messages. But I love the fact that you said it has been this ripple effect for when you speak, somebody coming up to you after wanting to continue to just give and give in different capacities, different audiences, because your message has so much power and you have been through so much in your life, but still pushing through, making things happen and continuing to help so many people really shine in their light and really get that strength within to be able to illuminate their strengths, what they want to do in the world, and be held accountable for it too. And I think that's the biggest part of coaching, is that accountability piece. Because yes, you can do things on your own, you can be disciplined, but it's also having that different perspective. And it's not somebody who's just like, yeah, do that, that's a great idea,
Right.
because family and friends might be a little bit different kind of support than somebody who's like, I understand that, but I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to give you a little different aspect of it. And I think it's just amazing what you've accomplished, continue to accomplish. But Jennifer, what is something you want to leave the audience with, just from your whole journey, even the last 4.5 years in particular, but whatever you feel is important to say right now?
If there's our bodies are very wise and they're always listening. And I think that we've been hardwired and taught to quiet it down, to not listen, to push it down, right? To fight it, to just get pushed forward. And it's like, whatever, if there's a nudge within you that's your intuition, your gut is telling you something, to no longer quiet that down, to listen, right? And I think that so many people are working for all the reasons, and yet people continue to share with me how unfulfilled they are, and I think we're not meant to live that way. So control what you can control and lean into, like you mentioned, having a passion project, right? I'm not saying leave your job and go all in on your passion project tomorrow, but certainly carve out a little bit of time each day or each week or whatever that is something that fills your soul, fills your heart, fills you with joy, because you deserve that. So that's what I would say. That's what I continue to hear and want to continue to share and empower that message, that it's all out there for you it's just giving yourself the permission to say, yeah, it's okay because I want this and it's for me and not for anybody else.
Oh, I love that. The permission piece. I think it's so hard sometimes where we block ourselves from things that we really want. Because when we were talking prior to filming, I was telling you this is my passion project. Like
Mhm.
it is something that lights me up, but it's amazing when we do have that thing that we carve time out for that is important to us, that can have that ripple effect in so many aspects because it's doing what we love. It might not everything we do we love. There's going to be things
Right.
that are hard and uncomfortable, but I think that's the beautiful thing, and just really doing what's in our control, but then also pushing the limits of what makes sense in each capacity. I don't think we should burn ourselves out or anything like that, but you put it so beautifully, everything you've said today. And I'm so glad we had a chance to catch up, have you back. But again, Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on, just spending a little bit more time with us today. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm very grateful for meeting you and having this friendship and relationship, and for you allowing me to share a little bit of my wisdom and message with your audience. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. But before I let you go, where can people find you? Find the Sisterhood Project. We're going to link everything below, but if you could let us know too.
I am truthfully most active on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where been at for me the last probably year and a half of building my brand over there. Um, because what I love so much is that just because that is a professional network, we're all still human beings, and a lot of these foundational core skills and messages are applicable no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, what position you have or title you have. And so it's been cool to build my brand over there on LinkedIn. So find me on LinkedIn, and then my website is justcommitcoaching.com. I could see it changing in the next few months. Maybe towards more of my name, Jennifer Chapman speaks.com, as I build the speaking aspect of my business. But yeah, join me at justcommitcoaching.com. You can set an appointment up there for just a complimentary connection call to learn more. So please do that.
Well, thank you again, Jennifer. It was always a pleasure. Love hearing everything you're doing and really just making such a difference in this world. And that's what it's about for me and everybody else that I get to talk to. But thank you for the impact you're making.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, and wishing you all the best too.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment below. What was the biggest takeaway from Jennifer today? I'm sure she would love to see that comment, and we'll see you on the next episode.